Hey everybody, welcome to NFL Total Access, as always, alongside Lindsey Rhodes. I am Dan Helly, and we have a full guest list today. Ravens receiver Mike Wallace and Patriots running back Rex Burkhead will be dropping in. And we're going to have the latest on those LA wildfires that are affecting the Rams as they get ready for a monster showdown with the Eagles.
First, though, the latest from Pittsburgh, where Ryan Shazier is once again. The Steelers released a statement just about an hour and a half ago saying that the linebacker who suffered a spinal injury on Monday night was now at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center after spending 2 nights in Cincinnati at the hospital there. So he is still in the hospital under observation, undergoing tests, but at least he is back home in Pittsburgh. Aditi Kinkhabwala, what more do we know about his condition?
Well, Lindsay, as you said, this is definitely encouraging because yesterday he was not stable enough to be transported here. The fact that he's back in town under the care of his doctors here is definitely good news. The Steelers have said, though, that he needs to undergo further testing, further evaluations before they'll give us any sort of update. Now, this is something where the Steelers are doing their best to compartmentalize. As cornerback Artie Burns said to me, this is our job. But he is not far from anyone's minds. In fact, the Ravens, the Steelers' opponents Sunday night, opened their day with a prayer for him. And Ravens head coach John Harbaugh said that Vernon Shazier, Shazier's dad, has been a team chaplain for the Ravens when they're traveling in Florida. And of course, Vince Williams, the Steelers linebacker who is Shazier's best friend on the team, today took the practice field wearing Shazier's jersey. The two of them go by Shake and Bake. And cornerback William Gay said to me, Vince wanted to make sure that Shake was still on the field.
Also big news today there in Pittsburgh that elicited a very different emotional response. The suspensions from Monday night. Juju Smith-Schuster suspended for a game. Bengals safety George Iloka also suspended for a game. That was reduced today to a fine. Juju's suspension was not. What was the reaction there to all of this?
It was uniform, Lindsay. Everybody in this locker room felt that that one-game suspension was entirely unwarranted. There were things that we kept hearing was that this was a football play. This happened in the course of action. Now, no one was particularly pleased with the way that Juju Smith-Schuster taunted Vontaze Burfict, but take a listen to this. Mike Mitchell spoke very globally about the way the game of football is changing, and then Ben Roethlisberger talked a little more specifically about his wide receiver.
You know, that's football. This ain't football. You got to know what the risk is when you sign up. No one wants to be paralyzed. No one wants to have head injuries. These are all things that are negative. But let's not try to turn football into a dangerous, barbaric game. This is how I've changed my family legacy. Before I got drafted, I had $368 to my bank account. That is far from the case today. I've changed my family legacy by this beautiful game of football for forever. So let's not try to turn it into some evil, dirty game. It's football.
Obviously, we don't like the taunting, standing over, and things like that. But you're going to look at, I don't like to compare players and suspensions and things like that, but you look at what Gronk did and what Juju did, and they got the same suspension. I don't know that that's necessarily fair, but that's above all of our pay grades.
Well, in any case, Lindsay, now the Steelers, of course, do turn to the Ravens on Sunday. If they can win that game, then they secure the AFC North, and they're still in the driver's seat in this conference.
The Chiefs going into a crucial divisional matchup against the Raiders without their best defensive player. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid has suspended cornerback Marcus Peters for the game. This comes after Peters threw a penalty flag into the stands on Sunday and then walked into the locker room before eventually returning to the sideline. For the latest, let's bring in our insider, Ian Rappaport. Ian, Andy Reid suspending Peters. Have things been building up to this suspension, or is this just a one-time event?
Well, Marcus Peters is an emotional player, and that's one thing anyone who has known him, even since college when he had problems with some of the staff members there, have known that in Kansas City is a solid environment for him and an environment where he can properly express his emotions. That, of course, was not the case last week. He was suspended by the team, but not for throwing the penalty flag into the stands, but actually for leaving the field, Dan, while the game was still going on, eventually to return. That was part of the reason why he was suspended without pay, ends up losing $76,000. And, of course, for Andy Reid to do this, take one of his best players off the field for the biggest game of their season when they play a rival, you know that it had to be something he took very seriously, and he did consult with veterans before he did it.
A big-time part of that defense, 3 interceptions this season, 17 since entering the league in 2017, more than any other player. All right, one more thing before we let you go. Roger Goodell's contract extension finally signed, sealed, and delivered, correct?
It was signed earlier today, a 5-year extension for Roger Goodell, now through 2022. And, of course, this does take one of the bigger looming issues in the NFL off the table now. It is officially finalized before the December 13th special meeting in front of all the owners. And in a letter to other owners from the Compensation Committee, they said a couple things. First of all, the committee did have strong and unanimous support for Goodell. They reached out to more than 20 different owners about Roger Goodell, and they got near unanimous support for his leadership. And they also described this environment in the NFL as among the strongest and most unified that the owners have ever been.
All right, the latest from Ian Rappaport, our insider. Thank you, Rap Sheet.
With the first pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Jared Goff. The Philadelphia Eagles select Carson Wentz.
Is floating it for Aguilar. Touchdown!
There is no giving up in Carson Wentz.
Throws, end zone, caught, touchdown!
Let's go! Let's go!
He's unbelievable.
Now we're awake. Now we roll.
Tight race in the NFC. Here's a look at the division leaders. You have the Vikings, Eagles, Rams, and Saints. Right now, the 2 wild card teams, the Seahawks and Panthers. 3 games this weekend against teams in the playoff hunt, all in the NFC, including the Rams, who, like many others in the Los Angeles area, have been affected by wildfires that are tearing through the region. Hundreds of homes have burned to the ground, and officials have shut down major highways and schools. The Rams practice facility in Thousand Oaks, right in the middle of the 2 biggest fires, which are both less than 10% contained. A concern for every player and staff member in that building.
Yeah, it's scary. You know, you're seeing the plumes for miles and miles. You know, you see a new one pop up, and it's just terrifying because you know that those fires aren't just feeding off dense forests, but off homes and communities, and people are losing a lot right now. You know, the smoke was heavy in Thousand Oaks yesterday. I was outside of my front door and saw ash on my car. You know, the smoke was thick. Didn't really feel comfortable opening any doors or even driving around. So it's real. It's a real situation, and there's a lot of people that are being affected by these fires, and so it's a great situation for our team to be able to rally around our community. And, you know, where our facility is kind of right in the middle of Ventura County.
Omar Ruiz, Steve Weish with us now. Omar Ruiz has been covering the Rams. Steve is with the Eagles, who are in Anaheim. Oh, let's start with you. How have the fires affected the Rams' preparations this week?
Well, Dan, according to head coach Sean McVay, fortunately, none of the players or coaching staff has been affected at home, but certainly affecting preparations for the Eagles. They moved indoors because of air quality concerns this morning. Instead of holding a full practice, they had an extended walkthrough. McVay remaining positive, saying he hopes that'll keep them fresher for Sunday. And Roger Saffold, offensive lineman, telling me that might help them digest the game plan a little better. One coach texting me this was a normal Wednesday for them, and preparations went great. They're trying to stay as routine as possible, and as much as these fires have allowed, if conditions don't let them get back on the practice field tomorrow, which they're hoping for and they're planning for, their contingency plan is to move practice down to USC for Thursday.
And, Steve, we can see Angels Stadium in the background behind you. They have literally turned that into a football field. The Eagles deciding to fly straight to Southern California after their game against the Seahawks and just spend the entire week here, right?
Yeah, Dan, the conversion of the baseball stadium looks fantastic. We were on there earlier. It is a legit 100-yard field, so they're able to get their practices off. Now, we're about 82 miles away from where the Rams train, so they're not being affected by the smoke and the air quality issues. Head coach Doug Peterson said he has not heard from the NFL about any contingencies about moving the game Sunday, so all things that way seem to be going as planned. Now, football-wise, tight end Zach Ertz, he remains in concussion protocol. But Peterson said he's going to meetings, and when he gets medically cleared, or should he be medically cleared, even if it's at the late end of the week, they feel he will be ready to play on Sunday. And lastly, Dan, we know the big storyline is last year's first and second overall picks, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz respectively, will be facing off for the first time. And today Wentz said they became good friends last year when they were training together for the draft. They do stay in touch, and he said it's good for the league that they'll be linked together by their draft vintage. In fact, Wentz said, Dan, he's excited that they're finally going to be playing against each other.
Steve Weish, Omar Ruiz, thank you very much. I'm excited to see these two guys on the field at the same time. Check out the numbers. Vastly different from their rookie seasons. Carson Wentz tied for first in terms of wins. You can see Jared Goff is fourth. Basically, every major statistical category when it comes to quarterbacks, both of these guys are in the top 10. Let's bring in our quarterback, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, for more on these talented young quarterbacks. Goff and Wentz went 1 and 2 in the draft 2 years ago. We just saw the numbers there. What do you expect to see from these two guys when they face off on the field on Sunday?
Well, Dan, I expect both of them to play well, and there's certain things that I watch with both of these guys. Carson Wentz has made so many big, tough throws this year. The one thing that he hasn't done as well as Jared Goff is making the easier throws, the throws you expect him to make. He misses a few too many of those for my liking, and in a game like this, you have to make every throw you're supposed to make. And then we flip sides, and Jared Goff has been exactly the opposite, in my opinion, is the throws he's supposed to make, he makes them. And he's made a lot of them this year, and why his team is scoring so many points. But he struggled against the better defenses making those tough throws, and that to me is going to be the difference in this game. Can Carson Wentz make all the throws he's supposed to make, or can Jared Goff make some of those really tough, big throws that help separate his team?
All right, Kurt's top 5 quarterbacks coming up in just a few minutes. In terms of passer rating, no two quarterbacks more improved from last year to this year than Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Kurt, we'll see you in just a minute.
The Saints have smash and dash, and Ingram and Kamara. Is he special or what? Followed by a fleur-de-lis into the Poitras Street stands. Ingram trots into the end zone for the score. What a valuable weapon he has been.
The avalanche continues to roll down the mountain.
Smash and dash, muscle and hustle, no official. Where Tiffany Blackman has more on the Falcons preps.
Lindsay, the Falcons face the best running back tandem in the league in Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. They have combined for 20 touchdowns and in 5 straight games have combined for over 200 yards. We heard from linebacker Devondre Campbell this week, and he said that those two guys help make the Saints offense more complete, that Drew isn't out there having to throw the ball 40 or 50 times. He also described how each back can beat you in different ways. He said that Ingram has power and shiftiness to catch passes out of the backfield. And as for Kamara, he called him a gadget, Lindsay. He said you can line him up anywhere on the field and he can just make plays.
Man, can he ever? Thank you, Tiffany. As you see here, the numbers are just silly. The best running back duo in the league in rushing yards, scrimmage touchdowns. And how about this? They've combined for 200-plus scrimmage yards now in 5 straight games. The first running back duo to do that since Sweetness and Suey in 1985. Ooh. And they have done that damage, Heath, against the Panthers, the Rams, the Redskins, the Bills, and the Bucks. There's some pretty good defenses in there. They couldn't stop them. Why should we think the Falcons will?
Because they're fast, and they're really fast, and they're well coached. I think last week Atlanta, their defense really surprised me in their loss. I figured the offense would do what they did. This defense, they showed up and showed out. They're going to need more of that. Team speed is key. And so here's 3 plays that I've pulled up about these 2 running backs and how they do their damage. Here's some smash mouth football from last week. Now, the speed of the Carolina team, it's ferocious too. And you watch the linebackers, the speed that they get to the hole, they actually kind of move themselves out of the way. It's great blocking from guard to fullback, and then this is just off to the races. Mike Adams, I would say if this was Count O'Neill, he probably would have met this about 5 yards further closer to the line of scrimmage. It wouldn't have been this big run, at least for what we know about Neal. This is Mark kind of making a whole bunch of grown men look bad in open space right here. Now, this piece. Alvin is something else because, you know, Lindsay, I don't know how you coach this because you got people in place. He sees it. He feels it. Again, I would suspect with the team speed of Atlanta, there might be another jersey or 2 there. But here and again, you better be able to tackle in the open field, and you better rally the troops because he is breaking leverage on everything. And then you want to talk hustle and muscle? Ooh, Shaq.
You better get your pads down when you come meet 41. He might only be 210. I've struggled in all, so 10 years playing, 7 seasons now doing this with you, to find a back that's similar of what he brings to the table, and that being Alvin. That type of power punch in a 210-pound frame, there's nothing like it. And this guy breaks all your defensive rules. That speed, they better rally to the ball, and they better tackle on the open field.
Another matchup to keep our eye on here, Julio Jones versus that Saints secondary that may or may not include Marshawn Lattimore. He's missed the last 2 games with an injury he is listed as questionable.
Cam Newton limited in practice today, giving his surgically repaired shoulder some rest. The Panthers coming off a loss to the Saints, which snapped a 4-game winning streak. Up next is the Vikings, a team looking to extend an 8-game streak and remain the number 1 seed.
Getting ready for a really good football team coming up. Another game on the road, another NFC game. They're very talented defensively, very good running the football offensively. A lot of skill guys, so it'd be a heck of a test for us again.
So many interesting matchups here. Yes. You want to focus on a couple of them. That front 7 against the Vikings, hard for anybody to face, especially when you have Christian McCaffrey and a guy like Cam Newton.
Well, it starts up front. When you talk about Carolina and what they do really well, they run the football. They're going to give it to Christian McCaffrey in a lot of different ways. They're going to give it to him out of the backfield. They're going to give it to him out in the slot as a receiver, the screen game, and all those different things. So as a defensive guy, the one thing you got to say going into play Carolina, we got to stop Christian McCaffrey. He's an explosive player. He can get the ball in open field and make guys miss like this. He's very elusive, and they use him a lot of different ways. But the big reason, the big guy you got to stop as well is Cam Newton. Cam Newton is number 1 in rush yards in the league per quarterback. He is a guy that gets out of the pocket. He makes all these elusive plays. When he's running and he's moving around in the pocket, he's a dual threat as far as he can throw the ball accurately down the field. He can hit receivers on the go. One of the most accurate arms is moving the pocket. He's also infused, Dan, in the running game. So not just him scrambling, but they have design plays for him as a runner. You saw the read option. They have a power running game with Cam, is the running back. So if you can stop both of these players, you got a big shot at winning the football game.
We saw the numbers up there. The Vikings have figured out Cam. He hasn't beaten them. 1 touchdown pass, 4 interceptions in the last 2 games. He is?
Yes, he is listening.
Okay, we'll see if he's listening. What color hat's he going to wear? We'll see if he's listening. All right, we'll figure that out. Panthers tight end Greg Olsen was a full participant during Wednesday's practice. He missed the Saints game after re-aggravating that same foot that he broke back in week 2. Ron Rivera says there will not be a pitch count on Olsen this week. Some other notable injuries from around the league. Dak Prescott will play Sunday as a bruised hand. Matthew Stafford's limited in practice today. He's also dealing with a hand injury. And Tyrod Taylor did not practice today because of that knee. Head coach Sean McDermott says there's no timetable on a decision as to who will play quarterback this week.
15 weeks in, and here is what the playoff picture looks like on the AFC side, with a number of AFC West and South squads fighting for spots, and eventually it would appear the right to play the 2 teams at the top. Steelers, the 1 seed, riding a 7-game win streak. Patriots, the 2 seed, having won 8 straight. The last few of which have featured a 5'10" jack of all trades.
First and 10, shotgun snap, hand out to Burkett, runs right big hole, 50, 45, 40, right sideline 35, gives to Burkett, runs it left, into the end zone, touchdown Patriots! The hat t-shirt drive right there, buddy. Give to Burkett, runs it up the middle, speeds past the 10, squeezing his way between 2 defenders for a touchdown, Patriots! Rex Burkett with his 2nd rushing touchdown of the afternoon.
Patriots running back Rex Burkhead joining us now, coming off his 2nd straight multi-touchdown game. Do you feel like you found your niche there in Foxborough?
It's been fun. Just trying to find a role every week to help the team win, and it's just a fun team to be a part of.
What is it like being a running back in an offense where your role does change on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, just being ready when your number's called. Like you said, it changes week to week, and we're a game plan team, so you never know what to expect. And just going into the game, you just got to be ready whenever your number's called, and whether that's on special teams, in the passing game or run game, just got to be ready.
I want to say that you were 11, I think, when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick won their first Super Bowl. So I'm wondering if there's any part of you, maybe when you first joined the team or even still, that ever says, I'm going to huddle with Tom Brady, or I'm getting instructions from Bill Belichick.
Yeah, definitely at the beginning, I'll admit for sure. Growing up watching Tom and, always having a big respect for his game, and then Coach Belichick as well. Definitely at first. But once you start getting the flow and the routine of things, that kind of goes away, and you just got to concentrate on football and doing your part.
And he turns into just, a regular teammate?
Yeah. He's the quarterback of our team, and that's what it comes down to.
You do have Miami this week. Speaking of the game ahead, you played them 2 weeks ago in Week 12. What does that kind of proximity to the last game do to your preparation? Does it make it easier or harder to prepare for a team?
I guess you come familiar with those guys just because you played them so recently, but it's still going to be a challenge. They got a great defense, Sue and Wake up front, and we're going to have to be ready to go. We're going to have to be prepared, have a great week of preparation, because we know they're going to come out with a lot of energy on Monday night in Miami, so we're going to be ready to go.
No Gronk, unless his suspension is overturned. How tough is that particular loss to absorb?
Rob, he's a great player. Whether with him or without, someone's going to have to step in or, make plays in that position. But, that's a great thing about this offense. We have multiple guys that can do those things and step into those roles and, really make plays for us.
New England, Miami, the Monday night game this week. Good luck, Rex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now presented by Hyundai, and it's a big story here in Southern California. All of the fires in Ventura, the Thomas fire, the Skirball fire, Rams kind of situated between the two in Thousand Oaks, impacted in the sense that they couldn't really practice today, but also impacted in other ways. Johnny Hecker going out yesterday to buy stuff at Target for people who were displaced, then dropping all of that stuff off at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. Not all that dissimilar, really, to the type of I need to do something mentality that J.J. Watt had after the Houston flooding, mentality that led to actions that led to him receiving the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year award last night, along with Jose Altuve, who posed with the 7-foot Joel Embiid for an interesting photograph. Kaepernick, another winner. There he got the Muhammad Ali Legacy Award presented to him by Beyonce. Meanwhile, in New York, OBJ is out of his boot and walking around, which means that we've seen the last of the Louie. At least Giants fans hope so. Speaking of Giants fans, they are going to get their wish on Sunday. Eli Manning back under center after 1 week on the bench watching Geno Smith. A job he went to interim coach Steve Spagnuolo earlier this week and told him he wanted back.
I just want him to know that I do want to play. I want to be the starting quarterback. I want to be out there, and just wanted to make sure he knew that. So, he said that he was going to think about it and talk with the coaches, but his gut said that I would be the starting quarterback. So. Happy that he went with that decision, and he has the faith in me that we can go win this football game with me at the quarterback.
More from East Rutherford, where the Giants will host the Cowboys on Sunday, and where Kim Jones joins us now.
The New York Giants took the practice field Wednesday for the first time since their head coach, Ben McAdoo, was fired Monday, and Steve Spagnuolo was named interim head coach. Yet it felt like there was bigger news, and that's that Eli Manning is back as the Giants starter. Manning told reporters that being the Giants starter is the only thing he's ever known, and he never wants that to change. As for his teammates, they were a bit joyful in the locker room. It was a spirited locker room in what has been a lost season for the Giants. They're 2-10. But if you were in there Wednesday, it was almost as if order has been restored.
Alex Smith fires late for the end zone. Got Kelsey. 2-1 touchdown. Kansas City.
Russell Wilson throws wide open. McKissick touchdown.
Beautiful throw. Rivers looking in the middle. Throws. Keenan Allen. Touchdown Chargers.
Bortles to Lee for the score, and Jacksonville strikes first.
That's a great catch, McCown.
drops back, slings one over the middle, it's caught. He's in. That's a Jet touchdown.
Back with our Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, as promised, top 5 quarterbacks of the week according to Kurt, and we are choosing from a horn of plenty. I have in my mind, Kurt, who I think should be number 1. I hope we're on the same plane. We're going to find out here right now. Let it rip.
All right, well, you know how important it is coming down the stretch to have good quarterback play, and so it's no surprise 4 of these 5 are in the playoff hunt as we speak. So let's get right into it. Number 5, Blake Bortles. You know, I'm holding out to see if we can get consistency from him, because there's moments that he looks like he's the real deal, and he did this past weekend, and I know it was against Indy, not a great defense, but if he can put it together like this on a weekly basis with what they have on defense, now this team has a chance to make a run come playoff time. But had a great performance this past weekend. Number 4 on the list is a guy that's playing lights out. His team's playing lights out right now, and that's Phillip Rivers. You know, another big game after the 400-yard game on Thanksgiving, comes back with another 340, and you see the stats right there. I mean, had a great game. He's spreading the football around. He's making a bunch of big plays. Struggled to get it in the end zone a little bit, so he dropped a little on the list, but love where the Chargers are right now, and they are ready to make a run. Number 3, only guy on the list that lost this past week, but got back on track. And we talked a lot about Alex Smith early in the season, MVP and all of that stuff, and then they've kind of fallen down. He came back and did his part on Sunday. Now, they didn't finish the game and weren't able to win, but 4 touchdown passes and 4 big touchdown passes, which is what this team needs on a weekly basis. So he gets the number 3 spot. So number 2 spot, not in the playoff race, so to speak, but the guy that beat Alex Smith and needed a great performance if they were going to get a win, and that's Josh McCown. And, you know, not a great record out there, not a sexy pick because the Jets aren't really in the thick of things, but he has played his best football of his entire career this year, and you see it week in and week out. They fell down 14 points, and he battled back, made big play after big play, which leaves us at number 1, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised here. The number 1 team in the league coming in to his place on Sunday night, and he just did what he always does, is make play after play and keep his team in every single game, whether it's running around, throwing in the pocket, accuracy, buying time, making rush yards with his feet. Russell Wilson is playing at an MVP level, and I don't know if we've recognized it quite as enough because he's playing some special football. He was this past week, and he gets the number 1 spot.
The MVP, former MVP, Kurt Warner on the MVP race, and I'm glad you said that because I believe it's starting to crystallize right now. You have Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, and Russell Wilson very much in the mix. The Seahawks have scored 30 offensive touchdowns this year. He's responsible for 29 of them. He has been absolutely amazing. Let's take a look at the fans' top 5 as compared to Kurt's top 5. They also have Russell Wilson in the 2-hole. They suck in Drew Brees and Case Keenum as well.
Yeah, and those guys had decent performances, but if you go back and watch the tape, they weren't quite as impressive, you know, more some dink and dunk type throws. So I thought Alex Smith deserved to be back in there. You know, so sorry, I placed him in that spot, and Phillip Rivers is playing great and their team's winning, so I put him in there instead.
I think he is well deserving. Chargers trending upward, certainly. Kurt Warner, thank you very much.
After the 13 weeks down, just 4 to go. We are in the home stretch of the season, and while a few teams have emerged as blue chips and a handful of teams have folded, there are quite a few fighting to make the draw. The chips are down for some of them, gentlemen, but they might go on a heater.
You see what she's doing here?
Yeah,
nice job.
Let's play wild card draw. See who Willie and Heath want to go all in on. You've got the AFC.
Yes, I do.
Okay? You've got 4 teams here for
Pittsburgh
cards
Steelers, Patriots,
that are in right now.
Tennessee.
These are your top 4 seeds.
Kansas City. Okay.
Now your wild cards.
I'll take a wild card. It will not be the Raiders. I will not take a wild card.
That was quick.
I will not like that card. Thank you very much. Another card, please.
Okie dokie.
I will take the Jaguars. You can put them as one of my wild card teams.
Okay,
absolutely.
so they're a wild
Great
card.
defense. They're running the ball. And guess who's playing better? Blake Bortles.
We need one more card.
I need one more
for
card.
You?
I'll take the Baltimore Ravens. Surprisingly, they generated a little bit of offense. The defense is one of the best in the league. DP's my guy. So I like this lineup. I think I'm going to mix it up a little bit. There's one team right here that bothers me just a little bit. A team that was scoring a lot of points in the NFL at the beginning, 32. Now they're only scoring 19. The explosive players are not there anymore. They're not running the football. Went from 156 yards to what? Almost 80 yards
Not
now?
enough.
Not enough. Defenses are playing the same. Can I give this back to you? Could I please have another
I don't
card?
want it back, but
Get rid of them and give me those Chargers. Give me those red, hot Los Angeles Chargers. A team that's playing great defense. The offense is doing really well. And guess what? They're peaking at the right time. Usually, they're going the wrong direction at this time. Not anymore.
So are you going to stay?
I'm going to stay like this, but I'm going to mix it up just a little bit because I got Jacksonville winning the division. I can't move in this suit. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to move the Titans out. There will be a wild card team. So my division winners look like this, and those are my wild card teams.
So that makes this the Rivers card.
Yes.
Okay, so the hand that you are going to play with is the Patriots, the Steelers, the Jags, the Chargers, the Titans, and the Ravens. That's your AFC playoff picture.
That is it.
Now to the NFC, my friend.
Current standings, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
We have the Vikings.
Okay.
Number 1.
And the Eagles.
Yep.
And the Rams.
Good.
And the Saints.
Beautiful. So we've got all the divisions represented here.
Give you a little room over here.
Let's see here.
Wild card.
Throw them out. Although I was really impressed with that defense, that offense. I told you, there's no rhythm. There is no rhythm to that offense. I promise you. Bye-bye, Atlanta Falcons. Yes, absolutely. Wild card spot.
Oh, okay.
Numero uno. Perfect. Panthers.
Panthers, we like.
Ooh, I know it's tempting with Aaron Rodgers, but no, not on the way out. Not a
Remember
chance.
the last time he came back, what happened?
I know. I'm just tossing him goodbye. I don't think so.
Better like this team.
Absolutely. I love that team. Way to save it for the best for last. And the truth is, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I'm going to put them in this spot right here. Listen, I like this Rams team, but we've seen, or I would have seen, some deficiencies. When this team here goes to Atlanta here in 2 weeks, too much to overcome. Seattle will reign. Rams come a long way. Congrats. 13-3. 2 12-4 teams, and then we'll see how the 2 wildcard teams finish up.
So you're saying that this team has the deck stacked against it down the stretch?
I do. I've been saying that for a couple weeks. They
sliding them in constantly.
When they played the Saints,
I did a Google search.
When they played the Saints, they were lucky that those 2 corners were down. Otherwise, they'd have another L on that.
And they got to go back to Seattle, correct?
Yes, they do. And they've already lost once.
Okay, so here's what we're looking at. According to Heath, on the NFC side, we have the Vikings, the ace in the hole, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Saints, the Rams, and the Panthers. All right.
I'm feeling good about that.
We'll see if you're right. It looks pretty good.
A lot of football left.
You've got a lot of good teams on
For
this
now,
side of
this
the
is
table,
what
I'll
it
tell
is.
you that. Okay, so the Ravens are in, according to Willie, and that will make our guests pretty happy. That man right there is the wide receiver that no one is talking about on the team that no one is talking about, and that is going to stop right now. Okay, well, maybe not right now, but after the break, Mike Wallace on why it's time to rave. Falcons helping to kick off our Week 14, the first week of the fantasy playoffs, and here to help you make the best choice, presented by Golden Corral. It's Michael Fabiano, who is in our league's playoffs, while I get a jump on the offseason. Roads to Minnesota closed for construction. I'm very sad. That said, the Falcons and Saints will be in action. Do you start or sit Drew Brees?
You know, I'm going to start him, but Drew Brees has not been Drew Brees this year because the Saints are running the football more often. So I say he's going to score you right around 18 fantasy points in this contest.
Good reality quarterback, from a fantasy
Things have
standpoint. What
changed.
about Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan is a sit-em, and a lot of people will think, wait a minute, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Matt Ryan has not scored more than 20 fantasy points in a game all season long.
All season?
He has been a major disappointment.
Wow. How about the Falcons running backs? What do you do here?
Tevin Coleman, I'm going to sit because, well, when Devonta Freeman is in the game, this guy averages about 11 touches per. It's not enough for me to start him.
So I'm assuming this is a yay?
I would play Freeman. He's been a disappointment so far this year, has not gotten into the end zone as often as we would like, but I still think he's at worst in RB2.
Okay.
Ted Ginn Jr. Typically a decent matchup-based sleeper, but I am not playing him this week against the Falcons.
And finally,
Mohamed
what do you do with
Sanu. I'm going to start him. If you look at the numbers over the last 3 games, the Saints giving up an average of over 43 PPR points per game to wide receivers, and he's been not as good as Julio Jones, but they're closer than you would have thought in the preseason. Let's put it that way.
It's a good fantasy game.
You would think so. Well, remember, I mean, the Saints have 2 pretty good running backs that we can't really talk about because they're starts.
Obviously. Yeah. All right, Michael Fabiano, back Friday with your starts and sits for the weekend.
Flacco deep set, throwing deep. Inside the lines, 30. He's got Mike Wallace on the run, 20, 15, 10, 66-yard gain, and the Ravens are knocking on the door.
And here he is right now, the leading receiver for your Baltimore Ravens, Mike Wallace. 3-game winning streak. This looks like a very different team than a month ago, Mike. What's going right for you guys?
Just everything's coming together. We're getting a little bit more healthy going down the stretch, and everybody knows health is the most important thing in football.
You guys are averaging 30 points per game during this 3-game winning streak. Do you feel like this offense is finally finding its groove?
A little bit. We're making strides every single week. We're getting better, and at the right time. So hopefully we can make those strides and keep it going, keep ascending at the right time.
Well, the good news is it's not like you guys have a big game coming up this week or anything. Just Sunday night football against your former team, the Steelers. How much are you looking forward to this?
It's going to be great. It's going to be a great matchup. I still think it's the best rivalry in football. So it's going to be an exciting game, great atmosphere. 2 great teams going at it. It's going to be a brawl.
Mike, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your quarterback. I feel like Joe Flacco takes a lot of heat, not just here in our building at NFL Network when he doesn't play well, but all over, primarily because he's been paid so much money for so long, and he hasn't performed up to the level we expected. But last week we saw the Joe Flacco that I know you guys see in practice quite often. Do you feel like he's where he wants to be?
I think he's getting there. I don't think any of us is really where we want to be as an offense. But, like I said, it's about getting hot at the right time and peaking at the right time. So, hopefully we can do that. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been making strides in the right direction. So hopefully on Sunday we can continue to do that and, hopefully for the remainder of our schedule.
A season-high 269 yards for Flacco, but I think his best performance was in the post-game press conference when he did his best Jameis Winston. He was eating a W. What are you guys thinking about that?
That was crazy. I don't think he should ever do that again. I thought it was funny at the time, but going back and looking at it like, man, I don't think you should do that, man.
You're going to think...
And it's not about Jameis. It's just like, what are you doing?
You're going to think twice before dapping him up or shaking his hand, aren't you?
Yeah. He might have some spit on his hands, so I got to watch that. Make sure you sanitize his hands before you give me a handshake.
You got to always carry that hand sanitizer around. Before we let you go, any final word for your former mates there in Pittsburgh before you guys face off on Sunday night?
No, just let's go. Let's get it. They know what time it is.
Perfect. Mike Wallace, the leading receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, getting ready for a monster Sunday night matchup against his former team, the Steelers. Mike, thanks for joining us.
No problem at all.
Saints and Falcons, the Thursday night football game of the week, could have a massive effect on the NFC playoff picture, which as of right now is 3 teams from the NFC South all in the mix. You've got the Saints as the 4 seed, you've got the Panthers as the 6, and you have the Falcons just outside the playoff picture for right now, but in the hunt at 7 and 5. If they can get a W, that would certainly help their chances of getting in. Will they get it?
Why you start?
Listen, the Saints are winning this ball game, and defense is the reason why. I know Lattimore might be in question. What I know about this Atlanta Falcons offense is that it's a broken rhythm. Everyone said they had it corrected in those 3 games. I warned them last week. We saw what that offense can't do versus a legit defense. The Saints have a legit defense. I think we'll see more of the same. As long as they don't use Freeman. Freeman scares me. They didn't use him enough last week. He might be the wild card.
I do think they're a little different without Lattimore on the outside, and they will try to attack that with their receivers and Julio. And, when you watch them only score 9 points going against the Minnesota Vikings, it's hard to kind of judge against that defense because they're a little bit different than other defenses. But they do have the pieces to affect the pocket and get after them. But I got to go with the Saints well. I think that they're primed. The way they're playing, they're consistent. They're going to continue to run the football, which Falcons are going to struggle with.
So the Falcons would be 7 and 6.
Yep.
And
you said they're out. You said they're out, right?
He's going to put a fork in them.
Yeah. 7 and 6 is tough.
I told the Atlanta Falcons fans they weren't going to score 10 points. No one believed me.
You said that last week before the game?
I sure did.
We're going to need to pull up the video tape on that.
It's all over Twitter. They were really loud for about a week.
Definitely going to have to score more than 10 points this week.
They were loud and wrong.
If Heath calls you loud, that means you're loud.